I loved summertime growing up. We lived between two lakes, so for me, summertime meant being on the water. Fishing, swimming, riding jet skis, and jumping off bluffs. Myself and my circle of friends all jumped bluffs every summer. This was the best time of my life. After a couple of years, I'm now 19, and we're still carrying on the tradition. One weekend, we went to one of our usual spots on Lake Norfolk called Big E. Despite a few weeks of drought, we felt safe enough to jump. I remember it was already warm that morning, but there was a cool breeze coming off the lake. It was just the beginning of summer. For whatever reason, there were no boats out. It was just really quiet. I remember watching some driftwood tumble in the tide on the edge of the water. It was the beginning of a beautiful day. One of the regular guys who came with us, I don't recall his name, but he was a cousin to my buddy's girlfriend. He was a few years older than us, but he supplied the alcohol and had gradually been accepted into our group. Around 10 a.m., we reached the bluff, and the guy driving the pontoon got us close enough to step off into the bank, which we then followed up and around to the top of the bluff. My friend and I helped carry the cooler up while shimmying along the side. It wasn't fun, but finally we were at the top. It was gorgeous. My friends began to take turns jumping off. One, then another, and then our older friend jumped. We heard a splash as he landed, and I looked up to see who would be next. But then we heard someone yell from the bottom in the water. Confused, the rest of us gathered around the edge of the bluff, and we found only one person was swimming above the water. I stood there watching as he dove under as my friend came back up. They took turns a couple of times before one of them pulled up the older guy, who was unconscious. I don't remember much about the ride back to the docks. It didn't take long, and we all just sat around silently watching our friend. Turns out the lake was lower than we thought it was. Somewhere along that bluff, a rock protruded 6 feet under the surface, and this poor guy had landed on it. My friend told me that he almost ran into it while trying to fish the guy out of the water. He ended up being paralyzed from the waist down after that. I think about those days sometime and how much fun it was. I remember the feeling of landing in the water, going under, and for a brief moment floating there in the abyss. I remember the way your lungs feel when they're about to explode when you reach the surface, and what it's like to come out of the darkness and into the warm sunlight again. I remember the laughter of my friends. I remember our campfires at night, and the way we all sat around eating and drinking and enjoying our brief reprieve from the rest of life. That was 17 years ago, and I still feel a cold dread when I stare down into the water. His accident made me afraid of water. I've been swimming in the lake a few times since then, but it was never the same. I never felt free in the water again. All I felt was sadness.